I get into today's episode, I want to introduce you to my new brand, Enso. Enso is here to disrupt the waxing industry, and we have just launched our first product called the Enso Duo. It is a first of its kind self-stirring wax warmer. Yes, you heard that correctly. The Enso Duo is a dual warmer that is able to stir your wax at a perfect consistency. And if that wasn't enough to wow you, we also have copper inserts for not only a beautiful updated aesthetic, but also for antimicrobial benefits. This is made by an esthetician for estheticians with its custom design. It is truly here to solve many frustrations with our current wax warmers today. With custom wax holders and a one-of-its-kind design, it is truly something to be seen. So check it out on ensowax.com. And pre-sale is happening until September. So click the link in my bio to find out how you can save up to $400 today on the Enso Duo. Hey everyone, thank you for joining the Waxing Podcast. My name is Kirsten. I am your host, and I am so excited to welcome our next guest, Jessica.
Hi, everyone.
Jessica, I'm so excited to have you on. I know that I just gave you a literal 11-minute rundown of how excited I am to have you on, but I have truly not done this in a couple of years, and that is bringing somebody on who's a couple steps forward than hopefully those new estheticians that are wanting to open their own business. So I am deeply grateful that you're going to share your insider secrets, because I know that this is a really tough time in a person's business.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. So do you want to give a little introduction? Let people know, of course, your name is Jessica, what your business is called, and how long you've been open for.
Okay, so my business is J Beauty Lounge. I'm from Connecticut. I'm in the New Haven area, and my business came established in 2020 officially, the name and everything. So I've been in business for December 1st will be 3 years.
Wow,
And
congratulations. I was going to ask you, I'm like, when did you open in 2020? Because a lot of people will get on here and be like, yeah, I opened March of 2020. And then I'm like, oh my gosh. But you opened in December of 2020 when you were trying to get your feet back on the floor.
yes, like the world was kind of opened up that summer previous. So it just happened and it just worked out. I mean, but I was working before that, obviously, in the industry, but my business LLC that's when it was born.
Amazing. Now take me back a little bit into like your beginning days as an esthetician, right? Whenever you decided, because you graduated, I know you've had your business for 3 years, but how long have you had your license for?
So I'm actually double licensed. So I have my cosmetology license as of this October will be officially 9 years. So I've been in the beauty industry. Thank you. I've been in the beauty industry for quite a bit of time. So my esthetician license as of May. So I just hit a year of having my official esthetician license, but I graduated cosmetology school back in 2013. So I went right out of high school and just went for it. So
In your state, do you have to have different licensing? Like, did you have to go back to school and all of that all over again?
yes. Yes. So I know because you do Connecticut is 1,500 hours. I'm pretty sure for cosmetology. So it was like a year and a half. It took me, if you miss time and all that. But yeah, I had to. So Connecticut, I actually didn't know anything about esthetician when I went to school for cosmetology. Like I know they touch upon it a little bit. It was very vague what they gave you. So I didn't know anything about it. So I wish I knew. But your journey is your journey. So, but literally, I think you didn't need an esthetician license till maybe a couple years back. Now they made a whole system. Like now there's other programs that you need to go for esthetician. It's only 600 hours in Connecticut, which is different compared to other states as well.
Totally. It's next to none here in Florida. So I always people are like, how many hours in Florida? I'm like, I can't even say it out loud. People would be like, how are you good? Like, do you know what you're doing?
Yeah, because isn't it like 300 hours out there?
It's like 250.
Oh, wow.
I always say though, everyone listening, and it's a waste of money. So don't do it. If you're in Florida, don't do what I did. But I thought that if I went into like the quote unquote medical aesthetics program, that
Oh,
I would
yep.
be so elite, right? I'd be like, well, it's 250 hours, but for me, I did X. And I think I did 800 maybe, because I did
Oh, okay.
the medical program, which is,
Yes.
looking back on that, I like an LOL, because it was like a peel class. Like, that's school. Okay. But it was electrolysis. So I did
Oh,
that
wow.
too. I never used it, clearly. Um, but I had to do 800 hours. I think just aesthetics advanced was like 600 hours, and then you could just get 250 hours. Me knowing what I know now, I would have just got the 250 and hopped out, because really it's
Yeah.
all about what you decide to do after your license
Oh, absolutely.
in terms of education, right? Like, they're just there to
Mm-hmm.
teach you how to be safe in your room.
Yeah. It's a bare minimum. You literally learn the bare minimum. That's why I tell people, I'm like, put your head down, get the work done, do what you got to do, take your exam, and call it a day. And you really learn when you're out in the field. Either you learn
Totally.
from someone, if you choose to go into a salon setting, you'll learn from your experiences, any additional classes you take, trade shows you go to. That's where you really learn the nitty gritty of the industry and everything, the do's and the don'ts and all that. And you make all
I
your mistakes.
I could not agree. And you make your mistakes. I agree with that 100%. So I love the perspective, because I think most people feel that way as well. So you got your cosmetology license. I'm assuming you wanted to be in hair.
Yes.
And then you shifted. You had a little bit of a different career choice, wanting to do
Yes.
aesthetics. So
Mm-hmm.
how did that come about? I'm just like curious, because I always want to know how my hair girlies turned into waxers.
I know. And it happens actually very often too. So I just struggled. I struggled really, really hard to find my place in the hair industry. I actually did not mention to you before, but I did lashes for 5 years. So I did that.
Wow.
Yeah. So I went into lashes, did that. Still wasn't, I just, nothing was clicking for me. Nothing
Mhm.
clicked until I started waxing.
Was
That
that
got
something that
me.
you like wanted to do?
So I used to do like facial waxing because in school
Okay.
you're like under cosmetology license, you're allowed to do that in the scope of
Mhm.
practice. So I always specialize in eyebrows, lip wax. I've done all that. I did that for 9 years. And I met a friend. She actually was like, hey, like you're so crazy about brows and you're so like particular and everything. Why don't you just go? I'll teach you to do a Brazilian. Literally did a Brazilian. I was like, okay, I can see myself waxing women. You know what I mean? Like looking at that all day. And I was like, it wasn't that bad. And from there, I worked at a wax center. And then I still wasn't licensed as, because you could still in the scope of cosmetology, you could do waxing. So I was like, oh,
Yes.
I don't, esthetician still wasn't on my radar. So then slowly I went on YouTube actually. And I saw this girl that was doing facials. Her name is Kristen, and she does. She's out in California,
Mhm.
and I messaged her. I was like, "Hey, like I'm cosmetology," but she's like, "Oh, you should look at the regulations, what you guys are allowed to do, because cosmetology can be very limited with facials and what they could do," which it was true. Which once I did my little research, and she was like, "Honestly, I would recommend going to school." I was like, okay, thank you for the advice. Like, I would love that she wasn't like, oh, just come for the class anyways. She was like, no, I want you to get the proper education, get all your protocols, all that. And I signed up for school like 2 months later. And after I
Wow.
graduated, I took her class.
Oh, that's amazing. So you stuck with it. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
sure she like really appreciated you following those necessary like elements into doing her program. I feel like you've lived a lot of cat lives in the industry.
I
Like
did.
you've done hair, you've done lashes, you've done waxing, but the waxing and facials you said, but the waxing like stuck as well as
Yes.
facials.
Mm-hmm.
So, we've talked a little bit about before we hit record about your journey as an entrepreneur, as opening your own businesses and all of that. So, I would love to dive in really to the nitty gritty, right? To what people want to hear. And that is how you got to the point that you got to where I felt like I could bring you on and we could start
Mm-hmm.
teaching some like really valuable things. So, let's start backwards. Tell me where you're at in your current business today.
So right now, I'm actually doing amazing. Still working hard because that never ends. But I'm actually able to this year, as of March, I brought on another employee. I brought other people on, the back end of the business because it's not just me performing the job all day. There's a lot of background. So I have my sister on board. She does all my admin work. I'm able to hire her. I'm able to hire one of my good guy friends. He does all my email marketing, social media marketing. He's my coordinator. And I have someone who helps me social media editing videos. So I'm happy to add everyone to my team and be able to, get a little bit some things off my plate, because it is a lot to be a business owner. You have like several hats that you have to wear.
Now, let me ask you this question before we dive into the timeline of your life. Did you think that this is where you would be when you opened your business, like in terms of a team and employees and all this? Like, did you think that that was going to be possible? I know you do now, right? Because you're living it and all of
Yes.
that stuff. But like, because this is the part where I'm like, people will listen to that and be like, well, she's different. She did it because, like, there's always that like, but, right?
Yes.
But the truth is, you can all do it. It's possible for everybody. So yeah,
Absolutely.
like did your dreams change as you kept growing, or did you always have this vision in mind?
No, not when I tell you a hard no, absolutely not.
Yeah.
I did not think I wanted to be a business owner. It was completely like not even a thing in my head. I thought I was like, oh, I'll be behind the chair for a couple years and then I'll go maybe work for a brand and be an educator. That's literally what I thought I would do in the industry as I'm at my age now, in my late 20s. So yeah, no, I did not think I would be here at all.
I love that. I'm like, because I feel just so often that people are like, well, she wanted that all along, so that's why she's there. Or, she found the ticket that led her to success. It's not, and I'm like, no, it really is a bunch of falling on your face. And
Oh my God, yes.
Yeah. And getting back up and deciding, like, there's this really, really cool quote that I saw on a TV show, or it was like a movie I was watching, an older movie, like a 2000s like rom-com. And the girl was a professional sports player, and she like got to her mirror, and she was like somebody who wrote a bunch of sticky notes on the walls to like remember things. And there was a sticky note, and out of all the sticky notes, it's the one I saw. So I was like, wow, this is really cool. And the sticky note said, you only see obstacles when you take your eye off the goal.
Absolutely.
I thought it was just so impactful and important to see that. Like, it's so true, because it's like, yeah, when you see things like, oh, this person's doing this, or this person's doing this, I need to do this too. Or you start grabbing at all these obstacles that are, in the way of your future. But you're like, if you just keep your eye on your goal, you won't see obstacles. Obstacles don't exist. It was just so powerful for me. So we talked a little bit about what before we hit record, and you mentioned that you had actually opened a business previously. So we have, done this twice. So let's talk about your journey into entrepreneurship.
So I was actually at a salon that I just did not work. So I was still doing hair. I was supposed to go for lashes for a class. She completely derailed me and was like, oh no, like I need you to focus on hair. And I was like, oh my God, I saved all this money for this class. And I felt like I failed. And I was like, oh my God, like what's going on? So I knew that I had to leave here there. I was like, I don't want to do hair anymore. I want to do lashes. So when I got the opportunity, a friend was opening a shop. She was like, hey, rent for me. So I was like, all right, you know what? I'll go be my own boss. Maybe that's what I need. I didn't think twice. Took out a personal loan, got what I needed to do hair, got what I needed to do lashes, took the class, and I just started. And when I tell you, it was the hardest year of my entire life, because I signed up to be there for a year for her lease. I paid a $600 rent. That's exactly how much I made a month. I had barely any clientele, barely. So when I tell you I jumped the gun, I jumped the gun. And I had maybe 10 retaining clients for either hair or lashes, because I just started lashing. So I didn't have anybody, a mentor or somebody to go to. Like, I was just winging it. And if I had any mistakes or anything, I struggled. So I really, after a year, was like, I can't do this. I had $20 in my bank account to put gas in my car if I was lucky, or wanted to grab lunch, coffee, whatever it was. And I was like, I need to get out of here. So I ended up leaving that. So that's why I'm saying I jumped the gun, and I never asked myself, is this the right decision? I was just in a salon that I was like not mentally okay in. And I was like, I have to get out of here. And I didn't think twice. And I never look at it as, a loss, but I did have to do a lot of work to get out of that 1 year of a loss, in a sense.
Now that you've reached your point of success where you actually get to hire people, right? Like that takes a certain level to get to where you are able to hire people, because you have to pay those people and you have to know every single month you have enough money to pay these people.
Absolutely.
When you look, yeah, right. It's like, forget we business owners get paid last, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Tell me, when you look at that version of yourself back then who didn't make it, who worked in a place for a year, had to make $600 and quite literally made just that much money, nothing for yourself. Do you look at her and say, you should have done this, 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 this? Like, because now you have all of the tools, right? So like, what would you have done differently had you known what you know now? Like, what do you think, where do you think the mistake was?
The mistake was thinking I could be my own boss at such a young age with no clientele. So like what I would tell myself was, I wish I actually thought about it, because I didn't. So I wish I actually like slept on it a little bit and then like, all right, let me like really think, instead of taking out a huge loan and get myself in a debt on top of it to be able to live this dream. That's why I always tell people, like, make sure you really want to be your own boss, because there's a lot more behind the scenes versus, to do, like products, taxes, all that. So it was really hard. It was really hard. And there's a lot of things I would have done different now with the knowledge and experience I have, but yeah.
And now so you left that business after a year, you got out of the lease. Did you then continue to work for someone else, or like, where did you end up going after that? Cause it's kind of hard sometimes to be be a boss and then be like, okay, never mind. And then want to be a boss again. So like, yeah, how did that play out?
Literally saying the never mind is funny, because I was like, all right, never mind. I don't want this anymore. I'm like, this is not it. This is not what I want to do. Like, this is just too much. So I ended up actually working at a salon. It was like a full service salon. She gave me like a lash room. It was a great experience. I was there for 3 years almost. I knew a friend that was working there as a hairdresser. So I did a little bit of hair, did lashes. That was my main thing. Then slowly incorporated. That's when I found a friend who told me, get into body waxing. You'll be great at it. So I started doing a little bit of body waxing there, but still, it was not clicking. It was not clicking. I was not motivated. I felt like I couldn't be myself at all there. And I was being told like, oh, like you gotta, cater to certain clientele. And I was just like, you know what, this salon wasn't clicking for me either. The boss was great. Everyone was great. I loved everyone I worked with, but it wasn't clicking. So I shortly left that. And I worked at a wax center for 2 years almost. It's a chain that's out in Connecticut. It's called Tommy's Wax Center. I worked there. Very different from European. I will say that. Because everyone has like, this thing about wax centers. I would say Tommy's is way better than Europeans' reputation. But I went there. I started really learning about body waxing. And then I worked a little bit out of my home. I made an in-house salon. And then from there, I just started I had clients that were like, ones that you can kind of trust. I was like, oh yeah, like I do it at home. They're like, oh my God, I would love to come to your place. I'm like, really? I'm like, well, it's about a 20-minute drive difference if you're willing. They were like, oh, I'd rather start a small business, someone growing, solo, I wasn't an esthetician there, but a solo cosmetologist, whatever. And I was like, okay. And then I would leave work and I would be taking people at like 8:30 at night at my house.
And you were doing that, I'm assuming, because you were making more money.
Yes. Well, I just wanted, I was like, I did friends and family. Then it started growing. Then the people at the wax center were like, well, I'd rather support you because you built a relationship with your clients. Right. And the ones that I could feel like, okay, I know they won't tell on me or anything like that, in a sense. Like they won't tell like, oh, the boss, like, oh, I'm going to her house now. Like, I don't need the membership here anymore or something. So I started taking people at my house and slowly was like, wait, I'm making more. I'm making more at my house versus working at this wax center.
So then the bug again.
Exactly. So I was like, okay, like this is working out. And slowly I left there after I didn't even hit a full 2 years. I was just I was growing a lot at my house, which was amazing. And
which is so amazing. And when people think like, oh, your house, it's like people need to realize like there is regulations that can follow you to be able to go into your house, right? So like
absolutely.
that's like, I should do a whole episode on like honestly running
Yes.
a business through a house, because I think so many people have such different like wrong perspectives and wrong,
Yes.
information around that, because it's
Mhm.
completely possible.
It is. And like I registered through my town. Like I try to do is everything is like on point. And there's like you said, like there's regulations that you have to go through.
Mm-hmm.
And I did all that, registered, and then that's when I left the wax center. So it was like 2020. I established my business. I was actually sitting on a friend's couch, and I was like, you know what, we're gonna do it. Went on the state website, boom, 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 and literally got my LLC. And then 2021 of March 2021, that's when I was like, you know what? I'm done with the wax center. I thought I could make it here for 2 years, but I said, I'm making double my income. That's what I wish I knew back then. That
Mm-hmm.
I was making double what I was making at, my weekly checks versus, making nothing and no clients back then. But I had a good standing clientele that were coming to me every 4 weeks. That's when I knew everything clicked. Everything
Yeah.
just clicked, and it felt right in my heart. I was like, all right, it's a leap of faith, but I know I got the backup. And I left that wax center. I went March of 2021 was the end of March 2021 was my last day there. And literally April, I was full time at my house.
That's so amazing. And you know what? I think that this is like an unpopular statement, probably. So don't come for me, guys. I think the beauty of working in like big chains like that is that it doesn't seem so personal to like grow on the side while
Mm-hmm.
still getting a paycheck, right? Because it's almost like you think of it like a side hustle. Like if you were working at like a bar, being a bartender, and you were using the bartender money to pay for your suite, to like as you gain clientele, as you gain traction, right? It's like that's normal. But for some reason, like some people, it's like, to me, I see it as the same thing, because like big chains, you can, again, following the regulations of like, because like they have you sign certain things, whatever. I don't
Yeah.
know. Like I said, this is a very unpopular opinion, but I'm like, it would have been harder for you to be working for somebody personally, like someone's working for you now, to like
Yeah.
be doing that. It wouldn't seem the same, but it feels like,
Yes.
you were getting an income from this business while you were also building your dream on the side,
Yeah.
until one day you could just do your dream.
Yeah. I tell people all the time, literally, your main income will support your side hustle until your side hustle can become your main income. It's the number one thing I tell people all the time. Like,
Mm-hmm.
and I get it. Even my employee, she's just starting out. We're trying, we're growing her. She's in the early stages, but when I met her, she was like, I went to multiple places and I didn't feel like it was a home. She goes, when I shadowed you, I felt like you truly want to build me. And that's a problem nowadays with a lot of salons. They don't want to build you. You're there to make them money. And they'll
Mm-hmm.
give you some educational classes here and there if they're able, if that's in their budget or whatever. But, some salons, that's all they do. They don't care about growing you. Some people, and sometimes people are so lucky and they get that. But she was not getting that type of feeling when she was interviewing other places. And that's why she chose to work for me. And she knew the risk that she was taking. But she works another job. So I told her, I said, keep working there. If you have to work there a little bit more sometimes, that's fine. And have your days here or your mornings here. I get it. I totally get it, because I had to do that for a while too, until I was able to make this my full income and feel comfortable to pay my personal bills plus my overhead, because it's a
Yes.
lot. You don't just, oh, I'm just having fun hanging out with clients and just waxing all day. Like, no, I got bills.
It's hard. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I bartended and waxed for a little bit, and then finally I was like, I have to stop staying up until 3 a.m. and then coming in at 9 to wax. Like it became a whole thing of like I can't. But it took me until I could like gain that traction in my
Yes.
waxing to be able to do that. So I get it. So many of us worked 2 jobs in the beginning of this industry, but it's like once you get there and you're able to relieve that first job, it's like, oh, the gates open, the
Yeah.
possibilities open. Like you get to spend all your time on the one thing you love. And I think that's what truly
Absolutely.
helps break into the new part of the industry of like people seeing that, right? Like
Mhm.
there's just so much I could go on to with that. But so you were working in your home. So essentially the great thing about that is you don't have any overhead costs to like rent other than
Yes.
the rent you were already paying. But tell me a little bit about growing your business, because you have to dabble back into the entrepreneurial life of how do I get more clients, right? You were just having, it was great. You had your clients. That's amazing, but that's not going to get you a full running business.
Absolutely. So I was definitely lucky where a lot of people did follow me. I did lose people that said that, oh, they'll come. But it was I understand. It was a dip distance. So honestly, I would say I am very grateful for the clients I do have. My main at the time at my house, my main because it was my house, so I was very skeptical on having too many new people or like people off social media. Until like I stalked your page and made sure who you were and like did everything, kind of checked all the boxes. But word of mouth. Word of mouth was my number one savior.
And how
When I
did you
tell
get
you,
them to share about you? Like, was there any tricks or did they just naturally do it? Did you say, hey, please tell people about me?
honestly, naturally, you
Naturally.
know, I mean, maybe tooting my own horn, but I have a great personality. So I'm very relatable. I build a lot of friendships. Like I've had clients for like 4, almost 5 years that just really stayed with me and held it down, and literally just their cousins, their mothers, their friends of friends, cousins, people. Now they just all the whole family comes to me practically. So I was blessed with that. And honestly, social media, I really started once I started getting more comfortable being in my house. I was like, you know what? I can't just rely on word of mouth. So I really started posting more fun content. And it brought people. I had people that just found me from Google. I had people that found me from like just hashtags, like waxer and shoreline, because my area is called the shoreline. So they're
Hmm.
like in the shoreline area. So hashtags helped me at the time.
Yeah,
But yeah,
you
so
mentioned Google. Did you work on like reviews on Google?
yeah, so I did ask people to leave me reviews, especially like people that were like, "Oh my god," like raving to me. I'm like, "Well, can you rave on Google?" you know,
I
throw a
know.
little comment there.
Right. You're like, I love it, but you need to put it on pen and paper because, yeah, reviews are
Yes,
so important. And especially
yes,
Google reviews. I think so many times people think, oh, but my Instagram, my Instagram. And I'm like, well, that's not usually where people are looking first.
yeah,
That's where people are looking second and maybe third. And maybe people do look there first, and that's great, but that's not the always, right? You need to put yourself on as many platforms as you can. Google is a
absolutely.
great one because if you go on Google, you type in a business and it has one review. I'm going with the person that has, 87 reviews, 90 reviews.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's
Exactly.
just so necessary for Google.
Yes, I definitely. When I was surprised that, because when you make your Google account and you're like, oh, all right, people leaving reviews is great. But when I actually had the first person come into me, she was familiar with the area. She lived a couple towns away, but she's like, oh, you had great reviews, so I just took the drive, and I was like, oh, okay. Like I had people from another state, like 2 hours drove,
Wow.
came that just off a recommendation. She knew one of my clients and she's like, hey, she raved about you. I just drove 2 hours. And I made a trip out of it. She was like going to go to the casino after because I'm not too far from a casino. So I was like, wow, like word of mouth works
That's
and then
very
Google
cool.
works. Yeah, it really does work.
Yeah. And you were working for how long until you decided to grow your business even more?
Exactly a year. I was at my house. Then so now December, I decided to sign up for esthetician school. So it was a full year. I was still working at my house halfway into 2022, I think. Yes, so it's 2022. And because I was in esthetician school. So I had to, and I was full time. So I was out in 4.5 months. And that's when I was like, oh my God, man, like I don't have room for a steamer, a towel warmer. My room was actually, which is really funny when I told clients, oh, this used to be my childhood room that I turned into a salon. So we were like, wait, that's actually really cute. I'm like, I know, right?
I know, it's cute.
Yeah. So, and people were like, I would have never known because I really made it look into a salon. Like people came into my room and they were like, I would have never expected it to look like this because people have that image of,
They
oh, that
do.
person's at their house.
They think it's
But
like next
it's
to the bed.
no, literally, they think that maybe they're going to lie in the bed or something. And I'm like, no, no, no. Like it looks like a salon.
Yeah,
and
for sure.
so, yeah. So then, once I was getting towards the end of graduating school, esthetician school now, I was like, I need more space. So I actually was getting my lashes done at the current location, the current suite I'm in right now. My friend rents a room down the hall. And I actually happened to know the person across the hall. I known her. Her sister went to my same high school. So she was like, "Oh my God, hey girl!" Like, oh. Then she's like, "Wait, you're doing, you're in esthetician school." I'm like, "Yeah, I'm gonna start looking for a place." And she showed me this room that I'm in right now. And she's like, "Hey, like, this is available." But when I tell you, I was like, "No, I want a storefront. I want a storefront. I want a storefront." I was like, in my head, I'm gonna get that. Thank God. But I remembered that younger Jess who jumped the gun too much, thinking she can do it all and be a boss. I'm not doing that again. I went and looked at a couple other places in my area, and nothing clicked. It was that same thing, like nothing clicked. I was like, this is way too much. This is way too expensive. I'll be over extending myself and my budget, what I needed. And that's how I got into this room. I was like, you know what? Let me start smaller. Let me not jump the gun, get too ahead of myself, put me up here in, a financial debt. So I was like, I'm going to go start small, and we'll see if a storefront is in the future, later on.
Yeah. What do you think the future holds for you for the next year?
For the next year, so this year was I did a lot of new things. I brought in an employee. I brought more of a team in to kind of help me out. So my room has a little tiny room that I did rent out. So to a brow girl, she's actually the girl who that I used to rent to 5-6 years ago.
Isn't life so fun?
Yes.
Yeah.
She's one of my good friends, but she downsized and she's like, "Hey, can I rent the room, once in a while?" And I was like, "Sure." So she rents from me now. And then I added another room down the hall that became available. And like I said, it felt right. The landlord was like, "Hey, it's yours if you want it." So my employee has her own room.
Amazing.
I decorated it for her. So I think for right now, I'm going to stay here. I would love a storefront. This was last year. I forgot to mention, I don't know if you guys I think you guys have this maybe in Florida, where you get like nominated for certain things in your town for small business. Okay, so we have one. There's two different ones in Connecticut. There's like New Haven now, I think, and then the other one's Shoreline's Best. So since I'm in the Shoreline area, I actually got nominated. I was in school.
Oh, wow.
And I got a call, and the guy was like, "Hey, like, this is from Shoreline Publishings. You got nominated." I said, "And want to know the crazy thing is, I do vision boards. I'm huge on vision boards.
I
You need
love
to see your vision like in black and white, right in front of you. I see it every single morning. I put it on my vision board that I would get that one day.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Not thinking I was thinking I was going to get it that year. I was like, I'm going to get it one day. One day I'm going to get it. And I did, without even knowing. People nominated me without me even knowing. I won second place.
Which is literally amazing.
I'm even happy I got nominated, to be honest.
That's what I'm saying. I'm like, the fact that you felt so fulfilled just by getting nominated, and now you're like, I got second place. Like, that's actually huge.
Yes. I was like in cloud, I was like on cloud 9. I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. Like, I did not expect it. And I'm actually going to this year I got nominated again. So I will find out if I placed, first, second, or third again for this year. So that's next week. So I'm excited. I'm growing in that sense. I started getting into more publishing in local magazines. It's I'm trying to find different ways to network myself, because I do want to grow more and not just be on social media. Because I did definitely grow my social media tremendously once I got into my own space, because I'm like, okay, now I feel more comfortable to allow people. And when I got into this salon suite, I blew up. I got so many more clients.
Amazing.
So many more. Amazing. It was beautiful. So now I'm trying to get more into the community so I can kind of get more people in the door, and get connected.
So really just coming in on a final question for you. And that is, if I was sitting here as an esthetician, I am really curious about owning my own business. Like, what advice do you have for anybody looking to do the entrepreneurial journey, I guess?
So I usually tell people, my number one question is, what are the reasons you're getting into the industry? What makes you want to be your own boss? And are you really ready for what it entails. I never want to discourage people, but you need to know what you're getting yourself into, because you can be working, you know, an average job 9 to 5, but now you're going to work 24/7.
I know. I'm like, I worked till 11 o'clock last night. And that
Absolutely.
was like, that was normal. Like I always open my computer back up at the night, and I am with you on that. When
Yeah,
people are
you
like,
develop really bad habits.
you do develop the word, and that's a perfect way to put it, because it's like, it's just a bad habit. Because like, can you set the boundaries? Yes. Should you set the boundaries? Yes. But the issue is that most entrepreneurs that start their own business get addicted to
Yes.
growing and and you know, defining and perfecting and fine tuning, that they end up developing the bad habits, because it becomes this new obsession. Because you know what? We're growing that foundation that we're going to be able to eat from,
Yes.
in a metaphor way.
And your family eventually too. You know what I mean? Like, this is my baby. I don't have kids, so this is my baby. So I treat this like it's my everything. It's all I talk about.
For
Like,
sure. So like, that's the thing. If you want to be an entrepreneur, are you ready to have this thing that consumes your entire life? It's so beyond working a 9 to 5.
Absolutely. I forgot to actually add, another way I network too is I leave my business cards. If I'm at a restaurant, I actually did a reel on it. I leave my cards with, if I have a woman waitress, I leave my cards with the receipt.
I love that.
I leave my cards. I have my cards everywhere.
Yeah.
I went to a funeral. I was giving my cards out. I literally talk about my business. Oh, in the Chick-fil-A line, the Dunkin' Donuts line, the girl gave me such a good vibe. I said, here's my card. I'm an esthetician. I give her my whole thing. I'm an esthetician. I do this. I do facials. I'm known for body waxings. If you need extractions, I'm like the queen of extractions. Like, I literally am.
You're like your own
business
salesperson. You're like,
yes.
Listen, I'm about to show you how I'm going to change your life.
If you don't think you need me, you need me. You need me. Everybody needs me. Okay.
I love this, but you know what? It's so contagious. Everything you're doing right now, I would come to you. I'm like, look, I'll book a ticket. I'll come to you.
Girl, I was going to ask, if you go to the trade show, if you want to drive to Connecticut. It's not that far.
I know. I mean, literally, March is sooner than we know.
I'll pay for your train ticket. I'll pick you up personally. Train station's right down the road, literally. I will pick you up.
I love it. Definitely, I will consider it. Thank you so much for coming on. You have been so fun. My cheeks hurt from just the amount of personality that you get from you. Like, it's very easy to see why so many of your clients love you. So for anybody that's wanting to follow you, check out your website and see what you're all about, where can they go?
Instagram, I'm really focused on Instagram, and my TikTok is the same name as my Instagram, which is J Beauty Lounge LLC. That's what you can find me. You can go on Google as well too, but I'm mostly on Instagram. I'm very active on there.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for joining, and I can't wait to see everybody next time.
Yes.
How was it?
That was great.
Yeah.